Welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast, focused on providing valuable information for anyone looking to undertake a new build or extension project. We'll share our tips, tricks and stories from a building designer's perspective.
Hello and welcome to the Building Design Primetime Podcast. Once again, we're joined by Frank Geskes.
G'day everyone.
Building designer extraordinaire. I embarrass you every time.
I know, I'm very helpful. Nuts.
And I'm your host, Amelia.
Keep you dry.
Anything else? Birds live in them sometimes.
Or possums live under them.
Yes.
Or rats, if you're unfortunate to get a rat attack. Well, why are we going there straight
I
away?
have no idea. It's Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday. It's been a long week. Roofs bring character to homes. They can make or break a home, how they look. And everyone's got their own style that they like. Some people love, they call it modern. It's got a skillion roof hanging off the side, or multiple skillions. Some people like that boxy look, where there's a roof in behind and have box gutters. Not a fan of box gutters.
Yes, the team have heard a bit about that.
Yes, really do not like box gutters. Having been in a building where it's actually failed and the ceiling collapsed when I was in it. So, yeah, kind of etches in your memory when that happens.
Well, that's a bit of a catastrophe. Let's start there. What happened?
I used to work at an engineering firm, and we lived in this. We worked in this. Felt like I lived there. I spent so many hours there. Worked in this office in town, and a massive downpour. Like it was really going hard. But when the rain died off, like it was still raining. You could still hear it on the roof, but there was this trickling noise that I'd never heard before. This trickle. Where the heck's that coming from? And I was just investigating, and I went into I think it was one of the engineers' office, and I walked in there and trickling, looking. I looked up at the ceiling, and it's a suspended ceiling. It had a bit of a bend in it, you know. It was like it was bowing below me, and there was some dripping. And I'm going, oh crap! And I just heard more trickles and stuff. And it was back in the days, like, computer equipment was really expensive and had cameras and phones, and it was just really expensive stuff. It was just the age, I'll show my age here, where digital cameras were just coming out. We just got our first one. I think it was a 1.2 megapixel camera. It was awesome.
You really are showing your age now.
Yeah, I know. But going from an SLR to one of those, I loved it. I could never knew how to use an SLR properly, manually. My photos were never any good, but at least with the digital, it was good. Anyway, going back to the story, I walked in and said, oh no, this isn't good. And I kind of walked fast over to his computer, his tower that was on top of the desk, and then I heard the ceiling creak. I thought, oh no. So I grabbed it and I ran out of the office. All the cables were still connected, and I like pulled, ran out of the office, and the whole ceiling collapsed in behind me. So all these cables and shit went flying off the back of the off the computer and off the wall, and the whole ceiling collapsed on this engineer's desk. You know, wrecking his phone and the camera and all sorts of gear. But I saved his computer.
Good job.
Yeah,
That's insane. What caused that? Like, is that a structural thing?
What we found out was there was a box gutter, had what's called a sump, so all the water drains to a sump and had a downpipe off there. It didn't have a good overflow on there. So an overflow in a box gutter situation is if the downpipe's blocked or the water can't get into it, it overflows out of the box gutter and goes somewhere else, whether it spews out onto the outside the building line, go into a footpath, garage, whatever. Anyway, it all blocked up. We found out all this later. And the actual overflow failed as well. So no one had ever maintained this box gutter. So box gutters need to be maintained. You've got to get up there, you clean them because they're enclosed, because the water's got nowhere to go. So we put lots of overflows in them now. That's a vital part of doing it. The water's got to have somewhere to go. So in this case, the only place we could go was straight into this office.
Wow, it sounds like you're lucky to get out of there.
Oh, I got out fine. I got back of my legs were all wet and stuff, and I saved the computer. I was proud of that. My boss was, the engineer was happy and everyone was happy, but the cleanup was a bit ugly.
I reckon an insurance claim. I reckon.
Yeah, it was. It was.
So what is the cause of that? Is it a structure? Is it a design flaw for that building, or is it simply maintaining it?
In this case, I believe it was just pure maintenance. So no one got up there to clean it. It was an office building. It was only 2 stories high, but it's the middle of town. Who gets up and cleans roofs in the middle of town? Now, in saying that, I've now seen plenty of residential houses where box gutters not just they've failed, but like a slow leak. So we did one for a customer. Ended up replacing the roof. They wanted to change the roof shape. So when we pulled the box gutter out, all this timber frame behind where the box gutter was had rotted. So you had rotting timber frame because the box gutter had leaked a little bit. And it was like they were horrified when they saw it. And you just couldn't see it was behind the plaster line. It dribbled down behind the wall.
But it wasn't enough, obviously, to...
A catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Again, that one came down to maintenance because I knew the plumber who actually installed it and they kind of blamed him and I said, well, it's not actually his fault. When did you get up there and clean it? Mind you, that went down really well because they had deciduous trees around the property as well. So they had leaf litter in there. But like I said, it wasn't a catastrophic failure. It was a slow leak. When it got full and just went down the walls. But it was pretty horrible when we pulled off the plaster and stuff, yeah.
Another insurance claim?
No, it wasn't, because they were in the middle of a reno.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were replacing a roof, replacing kitchens, changing things around, and it was like... So that convinced them not to replace the box gutter. So we ended up changing the whole roof and putting a normal roof on there without any box gutters.
So are there other roof types that you can choose from that would be more suitable, require less maintenance, more cost effective even?
Yeah, look, definitely more cost effective. Box gutters are expensive. They're a big tray that sits inside the roof. So if you look outside on a normal roof, hip roof or a gable ended roof, they run gutters on the outside. Those gutters vary in size depending on the type, profile and whatnot. And they're cost effective. They're the most common type of roof and drainage for your roof. And they just clip onto the fascia. They've got brackets and it's easy to do. Box gutters, you're building something custom inside a roof. So you've got the roof sheeting comes into it. You've sometimes got to put flashings down from say you've got a parapet, like a vertical wall on top of your roof. Not only you've got the extra surface area of the exterior cladding, that costs a fair bit of money. When you get to the top of the roof, you've got to put a flashing over the top so it doesn't leak, another flashing down the inside that comes down inside the box gutter. And then generally the box gutter itself is quite expensive. It's a big tray that's custom folded. It then goes into a sump or a rain head. They're custom made. Everything's custom made for these. So they're considerably more expensive and more likely to fail.
So what do you recommend as an alternative?
Well, if you're getting that look, sometimes you can't avoid. You have to have a box gutter. So you do it big, well oversized, plenty of outlets for the water to go for downpipes, overdo it, bigger overflows, all that type of thing. And then you make sure you have a maintenance program that you employ someone to go up there to clean out your gutters. So to get that look people want, like if you go onto the Prime Design website and look under the news tab, got all these articles and we look at different types of roofs. There's also a beautiful butterfly roof that was thrown in there. Not a favourite, but that has a big gutter down the centre, and notice the picture that we've got. It's got a tiny downpipe. So I've seen lots of those, and they last a long time, and then all of a sudden they fail.
Yeah, butterfly roofs, I mean, obviously you're not a massive fan of them, but it makes sense. You've got the two pitches that run to a centre point where obviously water would drain to.
Yeah.
And if you've only got a little pipe, I guess it makes sense that, where's the water going to go?
Oh, true. And we've also got to consider our environment's changing. In Tassie, everyone talks about the intensity of our rainfall has changed over the last 15 years. So we're getting really big, intense rainfalls where other parts of Australia have always had that, especially up north with the wets that they have up there, wet season. We're starting to get real intense rainfall here, and we're seeing just even normal eaves gutters that we call on a normal hip or gable roof or even a skillion, that even the normal gutters that were designed years and years ago aren't handling it. So, and they go into the eaves or spew over the edge. So we put a lot of downpipes in now compared to the old days. You go to the old red brick homes, the classic red brick, white timber windows.
Yes.
And the hip roofs.
1960s.
Yeah, 60s,
Yeah,
70s.
yep.
Yeah. They have their own charm. But a lot of those, that might only be, 8, 12 square house, might be 2-story, but, that roof areas, could be 130, 140 square metres, might only have 2 downpipes on it.
Now, that's not a lot when you think about it.
It's not, but back then it seemed to be okay. But, yeah, you start seeing a lot more failures.
So what's the standard number of downpipes you have on a house now?
It states in the code that downpipes, every time you have a re-entrant corner, so you have a valley, say on a hip roof, you have a valley and the 2 roofs meet, it's like a valley, where on a re-entrant corner, it's an external corner, that's you've got a hip. On the re-entrant, we have to put a downpipe within 1.2 metres of that, at every one of them, because it's a collection point because of the valley. From there, it's a maximum of 12 metres for every downpipe. But use a bit of common sense there too, because you might have a porch, and you also might have an alfresco. Sometimes do alfrescos or pergolas that fall back into the gutter. So that's extra area that you're putting into the gutter, so you put additional downpipe in.
It makes sense, I guess, too. Probably comparing back to the 60s and 70s, houses were probably a little bit smaller. We didn't have, the alfrescos or the theatre rooms or the rumpus rooms or generally speaking.
Generally speaking, yeah, you're 100% right.
So I guess you need, most areas will have water, so I guess you need more downpipes.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
It does make sense.
But even then, I'll talk about drainage in general, but if drainage around your house, we put a lot more drainage around houses because we've found, compared to 15 years ago, we used to just draw the house, downpipes that are required, but we never showed exterior drainage. And what we were finding is that people that lived in the house didn't think about drainage on the lawns and stuff like that too, around the gardens and stuff. And then it was causing problems to the houses. So we actually, as part of the documents we do now, we put all pits, drains, ag drains, surface drains around houses to protect them. And that's part of the build. You never complain about having too much drainage, but you will complain if something fails.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah, sorry, digressing on to
Yes,
collecting water
draining.
on the ground, but yeah, but it's all the same. It's making sure that it can handle it, but you're not thinking about just for now, but you want it for the life of the house. You never want to have a problem with any of your roof drainage, and be smart with your roofs too. Like, we've done curved roofs, semi-curved roofs. Haven't done a concave. That's a bit weird. But butterfly roofs, parapets with box gutters, which are skewing roofs inside. Hips, gables, yeah, all sorts of types. And it's understanding those terms when you're talking to your designer as well. But taking pictures, obviously, is going to be the go. Showing what you like.
Definitely. And what about in terms of going back to gutters?
Yep.
Are there standard sizes for those? Can you request a custom size? How does it work?
Yeah, you certainly can. Look, there's all sorts of different standard profiles. There's all these manufacturers' different profiles, and some very nice looking profiles as well. But yes, custom gutters are definitely a possibility. You can do stainless gutters, you can do copper.
Wow.
Zinc. Yeah,
The
it's all sorts
world
of
is
stuff.
your oyster.
It is. How much money you want to spend?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's ultimately comes with even you do a complex roof, it's going to be more expensive, but it can really make the house pop. A beautiful roof, can really complement a house. Even a very ordinary floor plan, you put a really cool roof on it with the right, how you do your glazing, lighting and stuff, it can really, really come up well.
Let's talk about materials for your roof as well, because obviously there's so many different products on the market these days. What are some popular options available?
By far the most popular is your metal roofs. Everyone calls it Colorbond. Colorbond's the coating, but the metal roofs and all the different profiles that are available. So you've got Lysart. They make a whole ton of profiles. Stramit. Not Stramit, Stratco, my apologies. And then you've got some custom stuff as well, some specialised stuff that guys will do. Local company, Structor, they've got products there as well, custom rolled roof profiles. Some of those need a lot more work in how to detail those and getting... because they're big trays, sometimes they might get a bit of movement in it, so someone's got to line them with plywood to make sure they stay straight.
And what about tiled roofs? Do people still go with those?
Lots of tiles roofs, yep. Obviously they're on your hip and gables, not on your skewings, because they have a minimum angle they allowed to be put in. Still do lots of tile roofs. And you look at the different profiles that are available now, absolutely magnificent. Get some really cool flat tiles, solar panel tiles.
Really?
Seriously?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bit insane.
It is, and there's still very early technology, but eventually I see that coming in a lot more, because putting your PV cells on top of your roof, sometimes can really detract from the look of the house. Mm-hmm. It looks like rubbish, some of them. So solar tiles, I think that's a good initiative.
Definitely.
You got the zinc roofs. There's the other one, bituminous shingles.
What on earth is that?
That's an American thing. We've done a few here. It's very expensive because it's not very common. So you have the plywood and you have these and their coatings that you put over, and then you put these bitumen tiles over. Very common in America.
Wow. So bitumen as in like road base?
Yeah, well, sort of, yeah. They come in their packs or strips, and they nail them down.
Wow, there you go.
It's a bit different.
Yeah.
But what about living roofs?
What about them?
Do you know what they are?
No, I have no idea what they are. You're going to have to tell me.
So you're putting a garden on top of your roof. It's a living roof.
Wow. What's the benefit of that though?
There is some benefits thermally. It's obviously not a cheap thing to do, but it looks absolutely amazing in the right situations.
But you're paying to water.
Yeah, well, no, because they have these systems that are available that are designed for this, and also the type of plants you put on too. We saw some designs by a local designer down at Sand Dunes. I think it was Dolphin Sands, and they're burying part of the house under the sand.
Wow.
So different type of roof, isn't it?
Yeah. How that sort of baffles me a little bit, because what do you line it with?
Yeah, that's a very good question. You certainly have to make it waterproof, but what's actually holding it up is probably the question.
And it's extra weight.
Yeah,
yes,
huge amount
exactly.
of weight. Yeah, a lot of them that I've seen is concrete, so suspended concrete. So there's a bit of work in that, especially the ones that are built into the side of like Sand Dunes and the hill. Yeah, So you generally do concrete, and then you tank it, obviously, drain it properly and all that, and should last a fair while. If it's done well and done quality-wise, yeah.
I definitely have to put that on my photo list.
Yeah, you got to
One
go
of
have a look
those.
at that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's some very cool ones. Mate of mine designed one in Sydney for his, I think it was called the Urban Lodge. His whole house, I think the whole footprint was only like 45 square metres or 6 metres wide.
Wow.
And he built a garden on his roof so you could see the Anzac Bridge in Sydney. So it was a whole line of terraces, and this was the only vacant blocks to there. It was a super cool build. It was in the first season of Australian Grand Designs.
Wow.
Yeah, it was super cool what he did. And it's got a hatch you can get up onto the roof, and yeah, very awesome.
That is very cool.
But he worked all that out himself, how to do that garden. Yeah, it was brilliant.
He's a building designer, is he?
Yeah, he's a building designer and a builder.
Wow.
So best of both worlds.
Very cool. I have to check that one out.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, yeah, so the roofs are such a big, important part of your house, eh?
Definitely. Don't leave it out on the list.
Well, it's hard not to, isn't it? But it's such a critical part too. Like I said, it can make or break a house. One of my pet peeves, and I've got to share this, is on steep sites where, say, the road is above potentially where the house is going to be. When people drive past, they predominantly see the roof. So make it a really good-looking roof. So, and what I mean by that is that people can't necessarily, like when you look up at a house, you're looking at the bottom side and you don't see the top of the roof, you just see the eaves or parapets or whatever it may be. It's your perception of the view. But, you know, like in our suburbs here in Launceston, you go up Trevally and West Launceston, you've got some really steep sites, and you're looking down on the sites. We've done some houses where they've done parapets and box gutters on this house, but you're looking down onto that roof.
Yes, makes sense.
And the thing with those flattish roofs and gutters, because they don't clean them, they're always dirty. And you're looking down on a dirty roof and it hasn't got much shape and stuff to it.
Yeah, it would definitely make the drone photos look not as attractive.
No, definitely not. And it just doesn't look very appealing from a street appeal. So that's why you've got to consider those types of roofs on the lower blocks. How does it look?
Definitely. So much to consider.
Yeah.
Well, we might leave it there until next time.
Yeah, consider your roof and don't do box gutters.
Well, there might be a time and place for box gutters, but that's a time for another debate.
It is.
You're listening to the Building Design Prime Time podcast.